In my first address in this series, I mentioned several books written on 100 ways to do this, 100 ways to do that. Remember? Some of you will remember 100 ways to make you laugh, 100 ways to love a cat. I omitted, however, to mention the one book that set my thinking on this theme. And it was this book, which is 100 Names for Love. And I thought that sounds like a book one should read. In fact, it turned out to be very different from what I had anticipated, but nevertheless, a great book. It is Diane Ackerman's book, 100 Names for Love, and she's telling how she came to love the person in her life who had a stroke, how she came to love that person in so many different ways. And the book cover says, "This timeless, beautiful book is a mature love story, an exquisite meditation on vulnerability and resilience, an inspiration for caregivers, a lasting work of literature." 100 Names for Love. It might equally be 100 ways to love. And it is very close to my topic today. 100 ways to lift the value of yourself. Nearly a decade ago, one of my daughters gave me this book called Snow Crystals. It contains 2,453 photographs of magnified crystals, snowflakes, dewdrops, frosted patterns on our winter windows. The book, 226 pages of nothing but these magnified photographs. And for some time I pondered, what did my daughter think I would do with a book that looked quite boring? But inside the back cover, I read a little poem written by one of the people who collated these photographs. This is the poem. "The winds are still and the stars were bright, and the fairies danced all night, all night. Then scattered in glee with their infinite store, the sparkling jewels and gems they wore, sapphires and rubies that gleam in the sun, opals and pearls, where their dancing was done." And then it dawned on me what that book was about. It's about us. It's about us. 226 pages of boring looking pictures were symbols of human beings. Because we can all be like that, just boring, until we see each one is different. Each one is quite unique. No, you can't have those two words together, can you? Each one is unique. And buried in each one of them, invisible to the human eye, the sapphires and rubies that gleam in the sun. If only we could all be like that. Each human being has that gleaming potential within them. Oh, I know the way some people behave. People in high places, people in the streets and lanes, people in the shops and the stores, their gleam has been blocked out. But is it possible to recover it? Sometimes we hear it said it's not possible, but let us today look at the possibility for us and for others near to us. Can we lift the value a person places on themselves? And we don't have to look far for that mirror that shows us ourselves. In some circumstances, we devalue ourselves. I'm not good enough. In some experiences, we were devalued by other people. In some conversations, we devalue others. Many people, many of us, may have been seriously damaged in our personality, our well-being, as a result of other people devaluing us. And many of us know that we carry emotional vulnerabilities, not only of other people devaluing us, but as a consequence of our own devaluing ourselves. And if we don't do anything about it, wherever we are on the lifespan, it marks us for the rest of our life. It affects our relationships. It places us, so it seems, at the mercy of our inferiority, our sensitive self-image, our unreliable self-worth. Well might people like Csikszentmihalyi write those books, Going with the Flow of Life. He wrote such a book, but he said in that book, hell is simply the separation of the individual from the flow of life. It is clinging to the energy of the past, the negative energy that we put on the self. Anyone here, everyone, can identify the 101 places where the individual has been devalued. In church, oh yes, in church, in politics, in our schools, in commerce. There they are. You'll see people cutting people down, cutting them off. Sometimes we act as if the only violence that we deplore is that overt physical violence. But so much damage can be done to the person's self-confidence, self-worth, self-enjoyment by 101 ways we devalue each other. So self-valuation, lifting the value of the self, is a salient part of everyone's life from the moment we're born to the day we die. So let me draw your attention to, no, not 101, not 100 ways, but 4 or 5 ways that we might revalue, lift the value of yourself, ourselves. So I read Psalm 40 to you. Just these words would be enough. I was once in a vast mess, but I found a strength I did not know before. And my whole life started to turn around. Or that epistle I read, First Peter, from the epistle of 1 Peter. Put aside the destructiveness that can pervade everything. And the gospel, St. Mark chapter 10, where Jesus takes a child. And what did he say? In as many words, he said, here in this child is the heart of human goodness. Or the Bible uses different words, but that's what it meant. Here is something that touches the very heart of everyone. This child holds within it the kingdom. So let's have a look at some of the everyday ways whereby we can lift ourselves. We can cease being our own saboteur. We can keep away from people who devalue us. We can seek certain important self-comforts for the damage that has been done in the past. And we can construct experiences that give us a better sense of who we are, a better sense of being in control of ourselves, a better sense of well-being. We can intercept our habits of making faulty causal connections. And so the list can go on. You could name that list. You can follow that list through. What do we all need? What do we need? Through those many things, underneath them all. It was very concisely stated by a psychoanalyst whom I've mentioned here many times before. His name was Rollo May. He was a leading psychoanalyst of the last century. And he said this at one point: when I was in college, I found the experience of having some adult believe in me that was of crucial importance. Someone who believed in me. Parents who believed in us. Teachers who believed in us. A colleague, a mentor, a friend. Until the day came when we started to believe in ourselves in a mature, self-enhancing way. And we then pass that on to others as we show that we believe in them. So no matter our age, our status, our role in life, we all know that our self is lifted in its value, enhanced as another person, a significant person perhaps, says yes to us. That interpersonal affirmation enhances us, expands us, our confidence is lifted, our competence is changed. It is an affirmation leading to the strengthening of the inner self, leading to experiences of pleasure in life, that growing ability to manage ourselves better, to meet the challenges of life with growing self-esteem and self-worth. So that's number one issue. Number two, you lift the value of yourself as you deliberately start dispensing with your lingering negative energies. And you start practicing enhancing what positive energy is there within you. William Wordsworth wrote these words in his poetry: though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind. The positive things. The Australian artist John Olsen once painted the figure of fellow artist Lloyd Rees. And Lloyd Rees, well into his 90s, he was almost 100 when the painting was done, an emaciated scarecrow image of a man, there he was. Yet Lloyd Rees, in those late years of his life, was virtually blind, but he went on painting the most colourful imagery. One of his paintings, Autumn Sun, is on the cover of my book of prayers, Hope, that I used today. The painting was an outstanding example of positive energy. That this man could do just that, even though he was 99 years of age and blind. Remember, the new faith is through and through about good, positive energy that carries colourful imagery, that softens, that heals, that enhances, that keeps us on that pathway towards our wholeness and well-being. We all want to be part of that, surely, want to be part of such a new faith. So that's the second issue, of emphasising, enhancing the positive energy. Thirdly, inevitably, events, life itself, throws up people who tangle us in the small things of life. But a stronger sense of self comes to us as we look beyond our demanding small boundaries to be part of a larger spirit of altruism. Dr. Dean Ornish, the author and cardiologist who wrote the book Love and Our Survival, said caring about others is biological. One thing you get from others is that you're not lonely, if you let it happen. And the more connected you are, the healthier you are. Thus, the reason altruism may be healing for both the giver and the recipient. And it is in the giving to others with an open heart that helps heal the isolation that appears to separate us from each other. So on one level, he says, we're all of us a self with a small s. But on another level, we are connected with a larger S, part of that universal self. So if you're following me to this date, I've said how many things? 3 things. 1, look for the affirmation of the self, people saying yes. 2, the positive energy lifting the self. 3rd, moving us into an altruistic self, enlarging the self. And 4, to the healing of the self. Because you see, most of us carry memories, the marks, the resentments, the regressions of a damaged, despoiled self. To lift the value of the self, so often a healing process is necessary. Not often, but always. We need a healing process to be in place. So many people, we all need healing, restoration, renewal. I've spoken many times about our work with the kindergarten children through my kindergarten field officers group, where a number of field officers, former kindergarten directors come together to look after troubled children in some 240 kindergartens across Melbourne. Those children, 4 and 5 years of age, need healing. They've all been part of a devaluation. Some of them have suffered severe traumas already in their lives, troubled about themselves, and surely troubled as to what kind of world they've been born into. I'm discovering more and more that work that we're doing is too small. We're only looking after a small number of people when a larger number of people are in need. And so I've begun the work of creating a larger unit, a trauma centre for children and adolescents. But then some of my staff reminded me just the other day that even that is too limited, because some people in their older years are still carrying traumas that happened to them in childhood. So I'm beginning to see the need that we must expand the trauma project from children to adolescents across the lifespan. Because there we find people are carrying that impoverishment and that negative energy. So through this last week, I've been interested to find that I have received two different brochures. One brochure came from our similar church, our like church in Chicago, that I have contact with from time to time. And they are building a new part onto the back of their church. It's going to cost them $43 million. And would you believe it? It looks as if they have the money before they even start. Then the brochure, along with that information, I also received this brochure. It's a brochure from my alma mater in Aberdeen in Scotland, where that university, the 5th oldest English-speaking university in the world, is building a new library. A new library. As if their old one wasn't big enough and good enough. Here is this new library. And it's going to cost £40 million. And even in Scotland, the money is flowing in. Past students, for example, Douglas Craig, his picture's in the brochure. He said his family were making a substantial contribution in memory of their father, who spent most of his life as a fisherman in the North Sea. Duncan Hopkin said, I supported this project in honour of my parents. They had to forego their own education to help support their families, so that they were determined that their 4 children would have the best education possible, even if this meant making sacrifices of their own. And so the personal stories went on, all focused towards doing something to provide for the children of the world who would, in adult life, become part of that famous university. So there are buildings in Chicago, buildings in Scotland. We don't need another building here, although I do admit that we vastly underestimated our needs when we were part of that new building that we have. We don't need another building. We have a project to bring healing and restoration to the damaged or deficit self. I said to the Cairn Miller Council that I wanted to get this project established. At first I said I would like $250,000 to establish it. Now, insofar as it's grown already, I need $4 million. Now, I'm not going to ask any of you for money today or any other time. You will give as you feel you're able to give. But that's the need. Do you know, in a few months since I have announced this project, only less than 6 months, one man gave me $130,000. Another couple gave me $50,000. One personal foundation has given me $30,000 and much, much more over several years. Another person gave me $5,000. An elderly pensioner has given me $3,000 in different sums over a period of time. I don't know if we'll make $4 million, but I do know this, that if I don't get a start, it will not begin, of course. Every self, at some stage of their life, needs some healing. And this project is about that. This project may sound ridiculously large. So are the needs. So are the needs. Over the years of my career, I have frequently quoted the words of Peter Drucker. He said, "Make no little plans. They have no power to stir the heart." John Buchanan, my like number in that Chicago church, said of their new building, it was a plan to equip their church for a new century. My proposal is to open the church to a new era, to a new faith, to develop a project to lift people to a new level of consciousness and a new sense of well-being, to make the church relevant in the most practical ways where people are living out their lives. Of course, I will not be able to raise $4 million on my own. But with some help, we might get somewhere. We'll get somewhere along the way. We often wonder why more people don't come here on Sunday mornings. Why aren't we packed to the doors? Perhaps it is because we've not given them a big enough plan, a big enough objective. Well, here it is. My project is one to heal and strengthen the damaged emotions of the heart, to restore the damaged self, to give many people the reason to believe in themselves again, to raise the healing, positive energy of faith in themselves and in the future, to remind us all that in these somewhat selfish times, that the altruistic self is a healthier self. That when we have all the arguments about this tax and that tax, we ought to see again how much we are crippled as human beings as we cease to be altruistic as a people and as individuals. Because through that altruism, we bring healing and well-being to the self, and also we bring us closer to that best life to which Jesus of Nazareth, founder of our faith, continuously pointed. I commend it to you. Would you please stand? And the blessing for today. May the God you see in all the colors of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep calling you forward. May your God go with you and bless you, today and always.